Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are looking at US30. US30, you guys, is an index. So I'm not getting into like super in depth what indices are, but basically like on the most basic level, they're just a group of stocks or the measurement of, a group of stocks. Okay. US30, we're looking at, I think 30 companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So something to keep in mind, it's greatly affected by news because obviously it's a group of the largest companies, right? So it's going to be greatly affected by news, especially regarding the US dollar, which is why we see so much fluctuation. So we're going to chat all about US30, kind of how I trade it. I'm going to give you guys some tips and all that good stuff. But before we get right into it, please go subscribe to my channel and don't forget to comment and let me know what you want to see next. I love to hear your guys' comments because it really helps me kind of stay on track with what you want to see. But yeah, let's get into it and look at this index. So indices are traded just like currency, you guys. The only difference is indices can be a lot more volatile because they're affected by news. So you see like a lot of these really long wicks, these are all news related, right? Because you got to think when there are big, especially during NFP and stuff like that, these pairs are going to be greatly influenced because, these indices are going to be greatly influenced because just the nature of what they are, right? They're really affected by the economy. So especially US30 is obviously going to be affected by the US dollar. So you always want to be looking at the US dollar when you're trading US30. Something to keep in mind, or I guess kind of a tip for you guys, I actually don't use zones very often when trading US30. I know that's so funny because I do trade zone to zone, but when I'm looking for entry, I don't use them, okay? I'll tell you why. The structure of our candles, okay, is a lot different on US30 because of the wicks, okay? We have a lot of long wicks. And so it's a lot easier for me when I don't have a rectangle to see these wicks and exactly where they're touching, okay? So that's one tip for you. I always keep, or I don't actually use zones. Now, what I would do is once I find my entry using just a simple support and resistance line, I would then draw a zone below and above, okay, using my zone method, just so that I can have a zone area where I'm going to take my target and not be relying on just a line, okay? Because you're obviously going to want to have a general area you're taking your profit at. I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. Like if I were riding down to this zone, okay, that's not well placed. It's actually going to be up here. If I were riding down to this zone, I want to take my profit a little bit before this whole area, okay? Because price has kind of touched it a few times, gone below it a few times. So we're not exactly sure where in this area it's going to end up. So I would likely take my profit just a little bit above the zone to make sure that I hit that target, okay? And we don't see rejection too early or anything like that. So that's another tip for you to keep in mind. So the first thing I would do in trading US30 is, the first thing I would do is check for news. You need to know when news is coming out when trading US30, okay? It's a great pair to scalp with news if you feel comfortable and you're disciplined enough to do it. It is really, really good, okay? Spreads are high during key news release, like especially, things like NFP and stuff like that. So keep that in mind, but it's quite a good pair to scalp if you like scalping during news. So that's another tip for you. So I would draw in my support and resistance lines. Now, I'm kind of talking over what I'm doing, but basically what I'm doing, you guys, is, and it's really easy to eyeball on this pair, we're looking at and I'm going to keep calling it a pair because I'm just so used to saying that, so forgive me. We're looking at the 4-hourly chart. I want to take this line and put it through as many wicks as I can, okay? So I'm not going to move it down because then I'd be leaving out a lot of these kind of higher ones. Actually, I could probably move it up to include these. Okay, no, that would be a separate one. So we're going to keep it about here, okay, to include as many wicks as I can. This doesn't need to be perfect because with US30, you are going to leave a little bit wider of a stop than you normally would because your target is going to be far away enough, okay, that you can do that. you always want to, so when you're entering a trade, I like to use the breakout method on US30, meaning I'm not waiting for necessarily a retest. Sometimes if I see a retest of a level, like here we see that price broke this area here, right? Like it broke out here. And then it did end up coming back down and retesting here. Okay. Especially this rejection wick. And we got a really strong rejection. Now, this rejection wick isn't a great one because it did go down lower, probably to a lower resistance or lower support, sorry. But you do see resistance, or you do see rejection along the support line. Okay. Multiple times you're seeing it. However, because it's so volatile, you're not always going to get that pullback. So I don't like to use the pullback method, which is my main method that I use on most currency pairs. Okay, so this one is a little different. What I wait for is the break of an area. Okay, so I want to wait for a break like this one. I'm going to go to the 15-minute chart. Let's go back to that guy. Okay, so I wait for this candle to happen. I need price to break out above. All right. Once this candle closes on the 15-minute, you can even do the 5 if you're scalping, but I usually use the 15 because I day trade / swing trade. I would get in at the next bullish candle and ride to the next support or the next resistance. You guys, I'm messing that up every time today. So I'd ride up to likely not this high because it's so volatile that you really don't want to try to ride too far with US30 because it's so volatile, okay? You just want to get to that next level. So this would likely be the next level. If we go back, we can see that price has hit that level in the past. So that is where I would be riding to, which is still really good, right? So yeah, that is where I would ride, and you get a lot of pips doing this. But the downside of that is you risk a lot. So you have to use really, really strong risk management with US30. And I'm talking super low lot sizes. Get used to it on demo first. Don't just blindly trade it. But it's a really great pair, or a really great it's really great to trade once you get used to it. Okay. So it takes a while to get used to, but once you get it, it's kind of like gold. You can really learn its patterns inside out. Another tip for you when trading US30 is that keep an eye for the long wicks. You'll notice every time you get a really long wick like this one, it's just textbook rejection and you're shooting off in the other direction. Okay. And it might not be that long. It might be like, this one here, or even this guy, but keep an eye for those long wicks. You'll see them. They're very notable on US30, okay? So those are my tips and tricks for trading this index. If you want to see more on indices and other things that I like to trade, I'm happy to do it. Definitely keep news in mind, you guys, and use proper risk management always. And I think that's all I have for you. So I will have this up tonight, and I'll see you guys in the next video.